So good evening everyone. I welcome you all for the 5 editorials of the week series. So this is the 13th edition of this series. In this 5 editorials initiative, we will be picking 5 important editorials which came in the Hindu in the last 1 week, and we will be identifying those editorials which are very much relevant for the UPSC mains preparation, and we'll be discussing those editorials in the details. Our aim is to make you remember at least 1000 points make you remember at least 1000 points for the mains examination. So in today's edition also we have identified 5 editorials, so let us go into the 13th edition. So please see the other 12 videos before seeing this video in order to catch up. So the first editorial which we are going to see is about the problem of the Andhra Pradesh capital. So we all know Andhra Pradesh has decided to, they have brought in a bill to have 3 capital cities for the state. So it is about that. And the second editorial is about the criminal jurisprudence system. So how it should be victim centric. And the third one is about the changing economic conditions of the Asian economies. So how Asian economies are performing now. And fourth one is very important for our UPSC preparation, because it is about RCEP, because India rejected, India initially it wanted to join, but it came came out of this RCEP. So whether it is a threat or a treat, so that is what we discussed. And the last one is about the economic liberalization. So how liberal is Indian economy? So author is analyzing how liberal is Indian economy. So let us go into the today's videos. The first editorial is about Andhra Pradesh capital conundrum. So we all know recently Andhra Pradesh government decided to bring in a bill. So that bill was called as Andhra Pradesh Decentralization and Inclusive Development of All Regions Bill. So this Andhra Pradesh Development and Inclusive, if you could note the name of the bill itself, it is telling that Andhra Pradesh Decentralization and Inclusive Development of All Regions Bill. So main aim of this bill is to provide inclusive development in the Andhra Pradesh. So that is the main aim which the government is trying to achieve. So if you could see here, we are having this inclusive growth as part of our syllabus in GS paper 3, and hence it is relevant in the GS paper 3. So Andhra Pradesh government under this bill, they decided to have 3 capitals. So one capital is Amaravati, which will be the legislative capital. So they are planning to have 3 capital for 3 different functions. One is for legislature, another one is for executive, which will be Visakhapatnam, and Kurnool will be the capital for judiciary. That is, the state legislative assembly will be in Amaravati, and the executive secretariat, the state secretariat will be in the Visakhapatnam, and the CM office, all those things, and minister's office will be in the Visakhapatnam, and state high court, that is Andhra Pradesh high court, will be located in Kurnool. So this is what the model which the Andhra Pradesh chief minister suggested. So it was inspired from the South African model which he wants to implement. So why he wanted to bring this bill? So the history goes back to 2014. In 2014, we all know the Andhra Pradesh was bifurcated into 2 states. When they bifurcated into 2 states, the newly formed Andhra Pradesh government, the then chief minister of Andhra Pradesh, formed a committee to identify which will be the new capital for the new state. So they appointed this KS Sivaramakrishnan committee. This Sivaramakrishnan committee gave his report that suggested that instead of having one capital, so the main problem of Andhra Pradesh was that why the main problem of bifurcation came was that one part of Andhra Pradesh is developed and another part of Telangana regions of Andhra Pradesh is not developed. So we need a separate state, then only we'll get the development. So that was the main reason for demand for the separate state. So by keeping this underdevelopment in mind, the Sri Krishna committee recommended for distributed development. So in order to bring in distributed development, so it suggested that we should have multiple capital cities. So that committee recommended a different model, but the present chief minister is adopting a different model. So let us understand what is that 3 model. KC Sivaramakrishnan committee, or KCS committee, is what they are calling. So please note down this word. We can quote this such committee names in our mains answer. It will be very much helpful. So in GS paper 3, we are having this inclusive growth. So there it is very much relevant, and they can ask overall development of backward region. So this was the ultimate aim of the KCS committee. KCS committee was appointed with the terms of reference recommendation stating that overall development of all the backward region will be the main aim of the this committee's recommendation. So based on that, the committee suggested a model for distributed development. So it said that it was aiming at distributed development. So note down, it is a keyword. So development should not be centered at one region. It should be developed at, it should be spreading and distributed towards the entire state. So that is what called as distributed development model. It should not be centered at one region. It should be distributed everywhere. If you could see Karnataka, only Bangalore is the considered to be the most developed state, developed region. If you come out of the Bangalore region, the development of the Karnataka is not as equivalent as Bangalore. This is applicable for almost all the capital cities, except a few. Like for example, in Tamil Nadu, we are having this distributed development. We are having very many large cities like Madurai, Coimbatore, Tiruchi, and Thoothukudi. So all these cities are very much large when compared to the state capital. But in the case of Maharashtra and with the case of Karnataka, if you could see, there will be only one city. The same problem was there in Andhra Pradesh also. Only Hyderabad was considered to be developed. So all the other regions weren't developed. So that's why this committee recommended a distributed development model through decentralized government. See, the intention of this committee was not to make three separate capitals, which is having three different functions of executive, legislature, and judiciary. It decided to create a model. So it wanted to create a model for Andhra Pradesh where there will be three. It also suggested three capital model only, but it doesn't suggest a model which was being propounded by the present chief minister. What it said was, we need to have three capitals, but the executive, the legislature, executive, judiciary, everything will be in the Amaravati only. So this committee said that all the three will be in Amaravati only. Only with respect to executive, let us bring it the distribution. So if you consider Vizag is known for its ports. So what it said was, deconcentrate executive offices based on the region specific economic activities. So deconcentrate the executive offices. Don't keep the minister office. If you could take Chennai, the office of all the ministers will be in Chennai only. So that is what the capital city model is. If you could take Maharashtra, office of all the ministers of Maharashtra will be in Mumbai only. But what this committee stated was, instead of having all the ministers' office in one capital city, let us distribute the only executive thing. So it wanted to distribute only the executive offices. That is, with respect to Vizag region, Vizag is known for its port-led development model. So let us have all the offices related to port, like ministry which is taking care of the shipping, ministry which is taking care of the fisheries, ministry which is taking care of the port, everything. Let us all the offices of these ministries, let us locate in the Vizag. And similarly, there is this region called Rayalaseema region. We all know Andhra Pradesh is divided into three regions. Two main regions. So this is called as Rayalaseema region. Rayalaseema region is considered to be a little backward region among the Andhra Pradesh, and this is called as coastal Andhra Pradesh region. So it is called as coastal Andhra Pradesh, and this is called as Rayalaseema. So it wanted to set up a So in Rayalaseema region, it is underdeveloped. So they wanted to set up the industrial Ministry of Industries and Ministry of Agriculture in this region. So that is what the model suggested, and they didn't wanted to have a separate capital for legislative, executive, and judiciary. So this is what the KCS committee said. Deconcentrate executive based on the region-specific economic activities. In whichever economic activity that region is strong, bring in that. Like for example, for the northern coastal Andhra, make Vizag as the capital. For the coastal Andhra, make Vizag as the capital, and government offices relevant to port-led development should be located there. Okay, so that port officer should not be in Amaravati. Instead, it should be in Vizag. So that is what the committee said. Next, what they suggested was, with respect to Rayalaseema region, we will focus on the infrastructure development. Okay, since Rayalaseema is considered to be a underdeveloped region within the Andhra Pradesh, let us provide development. So the first step towards providing development is to build the infrastructure. So let us build all the big infrastructure in the Rayalaseema region. So they suggested two models: construct Rayalaseema Arc and Kalahasti Spine. So this was suggested. So people who are also having geography optionals, please note down these two names. You can quote it in our geography answers also. And PubBad students also can quote this model, distributed decentralized administration. So for PubBad and geography, it is very much relevant. So this is considered to be called as Rayalaseema Arc. So construct a highway corridor or highway industrial corridor in the form of arc, connecting Kurnool and Chittoor. So it is connecting all the regions of the Rayalaseema. So this is called as Rayalaseema Arc, and they are also planning to make a new railway line connecting the Nadikudi and Kalahasti. So connect Nadikudi and Kalahasti with the railway line. Okay, Kalahasti is also considered to be a sacred region. It is a pilgrim location. So they decided to bring in a industrial corridor connecting Kurnool and Chittoor, and a railway line connecting Nadikudi and Kalahasti. So these are all the two main infrastructure projects which was suggested, and for the Rayalaseema region by the committee. So if at all you're writing an answer, you can draw this map and draw all these things also if there is a question. So that's why I am showing. So this was the model suggested by KCS committee, but Andhra Pradesh government brought in a different model. So that model was to divide the three capitals based on executive, legislature, and judiciary. So that is what the new government brought. But there is a very much criticism in that model. One main criticism is logistic nightmares. See, if you could see here, if you could see in the new model suggested, the distance between the Amravati and Visakhapatnam is almost 400 kilometers, and distance between Amravati and Kurnool is almost 390 kilometers. If at all a minister wants to attend a legislative session, they have to travel 400 kilometers. Okay, if at all a minister wants to go to High Court, or if they want to contact with High Court with respect to any case, they have to travel 700 kilometers. If a person from the High Court, if for example, if the DGP wants to visit High Court, they have to travel 700 kilometers from Visakhapatnam to Kurnool. So this is what the problem is. It will create a severe logistic nightmare. And we all know we are following a parliamentary form of government. In parliamentary form of government, both legislature and executive works together. So executive is taken from the legislature. When executive is taken from the legislature, the functioning of the legislature is very much dependent on the functioning of executive. So both the things should be located in the single place. So that is what is being suggested. If you are separating them, it will create a logistic nightmare. So but South Africa is having a different model. So you cannot replicate the same model. In South Africa, you're having presidential system. You cannot bring in a model of presidential system and apply it in a system where there is a parliamentary form of government. So that is the severe problem now. So you cannot separate the legislature and executive with respect to Indian governance. So legislature and executive should not be separated by 400 kilometers, which will create a huge problem, because ministers are the ones who are controlling the legislature, and they are dependent on legislature for passing all the budgets and everything. So secretariat and legislature should be in the single complex. So that is what the model followed by all over India. So this will create a logistic nightmare with respect to connectivity. So without having an effective infrastructure, what the author was suggesting was bring in proper infrastructure which reduces the time of travel between the Kurnool and the Amravati and the Visakhapatnam. You construct very good infrastructure, bring in bullet trains and all those things. After we are having a bullet train, then we can bring in this model, because you can travel quickly in a bullet train. So similarly, author also suggesting that we should learn the lessons from Maharashtra. In India, we are having this winter capital model. Instead of Maharashtra, we are having two capital model, or winter capital model. Means in summer, Mumbai will be capital. In winter, Nagpur will be capital. The similar thing is also followed in J&K, where in summer, Srinagar will be capital, and winter, Jammu will be capital. So already these states are following, but it has created a huge problem and huge confusion. And they are also facing these logistic nightmares with respect to the functioning of double capital. And author suggesting that the state government should pressurize union government to implement this Chennai Vizag industrial corridor as soon as possible. If such infrastructure comes, then this problem will be reduced. So that is what the first criticism. Second criticism is, okay, now we are identifying other two new cities. Okay, new cities like Vizag and Kurnool as to be designated as capital. If at all the city is called Vizag or Kurnool to be designated as capital, they should have the capacity to withstand the intense development which a capital will face. So not all cities can withstand the intense development, because when you are bringing in a capital into a city, then that city will be having all the major establishment, all the major developmental projects, then all the major offices or all the headquarters of all the firms, everything will be located in that region. And you have to improve the connectivity, you need land acquisition, all these issues will come. So whenever you are bringing in a capital, that particular city should be capable of absorbing it. We all know in Vizag, Vizag couldn't even withstand a bus rapid transit system. When BRTS was introduced in Vizag, it wasn't a successful model. Even if BRTS itself is not being sustainable in Vizag, then how it can withstand a capital? So that is what the question is. So intra-city infrastructure should be strong, in such a way that it is able to withstand the intense development. And the next criticism which they are telling is environmental concerns. If you are having three capitals, then three important centers will be polluted severely. So like for example, with respect to land acquisition, they will be clearing the forest and all those things. For that, the environmental will be damaging. And this real estate will be clearing a lot of forest. Then industrial pollution, we also saw that this LG polymer issue of Visakhapatnam, even though we are bringing in development, we are having very weak regulatory institutions which is controlling all these pollution and other things. These regulatory institutions cannot be trusted with because we know what happened in the Vizag recent gas leak which took place. So with the weak regulatory institution and weak intra-city infrastructure, we cannot aim at bringing in such ambitious projects. So please do this first and then go for the model. So that is what the author is suggesting. Okay, so note down this model. If there is a question with respect to regional development, we can highlight the recommendation of KCS committee, and we can also talk about the problems with respect to multiple capital model. And this it is also having an advantage. See, if the capitals are designated based on the KCS committee model, then it will surely benefit the Andhra Pradesh, because it will help in the distributed development. But this this model suggested by Chief Minister may not work. That is what the author is suggesting. The second editorial of the day is about the discourse on the victim jurisprudence. So, discourse on the victim jurisprudence is about the criminal justice jurisprudence. This article is written by Bajpai and Antik Kaushik, and they both are research scholars. So, in JS paper 2, we are having protection of vulnerable sections. This article talks about the rights of the victims of crime. We know there are a lot of victims who are facing if at all there is a victim of any crime, like it can be rape or murder or robbery or theft or physical abuse or whatever it can be. So all these victims, when they go to court, they are not being treated properly. So these victims of crime are also vulnerable sections of the society. So in GS paper 2, it is relevant, and GS paper 4 ethics also. This editorial is giving a lot of points with respect to ethics also. Whenever so in ethics also we will be given case studies. In this case studies, we will be asked to take decision with respect to victims of crimes. So then when we are facing a case studies with respect to victims of crimes, or when we are facing a case studies with respect to the criminal jurisprudence, then what we can do, we can use the points suggested in this editorial while writing the case study. So that's why this article is very much relevant for the GS4 case studies. Note all the keywords in this article and try to write that in the ethics case studies. Okay, so whatever criminal jurisprudence or the criminal justice system which we are having, it is always focused on accused. It is always accused centric. We are having an accused, and the government is trying to prove that accused is the one who committed the crime, and they are trying to giving the punishment, and we are not at all concerned about the victim. Whenever there is a crime, there are two people. One is the victim who is being affected, one is the accused who committed the crime. But our entire jurisprudence is focused on accused and not on the victim. So this is a very big problem with respect to our criminal justice system. The reform should come in that. That is what the author is suggesting. So victims are merely treated as witness. We are just treating them as witness, and we are sidelining them only with respect to investigation. Only in the court hearing, we are treating only them as witness. We are not treating them as the ones who are suffered because of the crime, and we are not having any victim specific initiatives also. So we are just treating them as witness, and we are sidelining him, and hence we need reforms. When we need reforms with respect to criminal jurisprudence, we are having IPC and CRPC, which is taking care of the criminal jurisprudence in India and various punishments of India. Both this IPC and CRPC are in the legislative ambits. If at all any reforms we have to bring in, only the legislature should bring in the reform. Parliament should bring in the reform, but Parliament is not at all bringing any reforms. Whatever reforms came in the past with respect to victim protection, everything came with respect to judiciary. Judiciary brought a lot of victim-centric initiatives, and nothing is being done by legislature. So that is what the concern of the author. Second, we are always focused on always say our criminal justice system is always on the things post crime. So there is this crime. After the crime occurs, we are having victim and we are having accused, and we are trying to give punishment to accused and send him into jail. So this is what our system is that we are not at all focusing on pre-crime scenario or prevention scenario. We are just focusing on criminal jurisprudence after the crime has occurred. We are not at all thinking about how to prevent the crime. See, in order to save the victim, the best way to save the victim is to prevent the crime altogether. If you are preventing the crime altogether, you can that is the best way to save a victim from crime. So we should also focus on crime prevention rather than just finding the accused and sending him to jail. That is not going to give that much satisfaction to the victim. So in order to improve the crime prevention, we have to there are a lot of situational crimes. There are a lot of situational crimes, crimes which will take place just because of a certain situation of the region. Like for example, in a crowded market, there will be a chain snatching or pickpockets. For example, if there is a dark regions of the society without a proper urban lighting and with the less number of people movement, there the crimes against women will be taking place. So such the science frames of crimes are situational crimes. We have to identify such situation and we have to correct those situations. Then we can easily prevent the crime. We have to risk map. Risk mapping means mapping where all the crimes are taking place. If you are having the city and you identify this particular region is prone for a lot of crimes, you have to map that region and send more police there and send more police for the patrol and have more CCTV cameras, so that the crime is not happening. You have to map the risk. So in this area, rapes are very high. In this area, stain snatching is very high. In this area, pickpocket is very high. Like that, you have to map the risks in the particular city. And vulnerability mapping also do. We have to identify the victims and protect them even before the crime is happening. Let us take for an example, with respect to chain snatching, who are all the victims? The most of the victims in chain snatching are women who are wearing the chains. So where they are going to be the victim with respect to chain snatching, where that crime is going to happen, that crime is going to happen in a market, or it is going to happen in a place where more women come with the jewelry. So for that, if you could see, the Chennai police brought in an initiative of providing this scarves to the women who are coming. So this is actually, the initiative was brought in the T Nagar, where women were given scarves. Okay, women were given scarves so that if they are wearing such a scarf, then the chain will not be visible outside. So the chain snatching can be prevented. So such scarves are given before the Deepavali sales. Before the Deepavali sales in the T Nagar, police were distributing the scarves to women who are wearing necklaces and chains. Okay. So if you could see here in Tamil Nadu, we also brought this Amma patrol. In this Amma patrol means it is a pink vehicle, a beat vehicle, which will be in the patrol in the night times. In the night times, there will be a patrol with a woman cop and a male cop. Women cop also will be there, and they will be patrolling, and they will be patrolling in those areas where the women movement is high and where there is capability. So they risk mapped a few areas in Chennai and in Tamil Nadu where the women crimes are happening, and there they will be patrolling. So such kind of things are being done. This is for crime prevention. So crime prevention is the best thing we can do for a victim. So these are all the two examples. You can quote such examples in your mains answers or ethics answer or wherever. So that's why I'm showing you with the image. Even though this is not given in the editorial, I am showing these examples for you in order to emphasize on this point of crime prevention. So focus on crime prevention. That is the first priority. Then the next one is the author is suggesting various reforms. Okay, let us see the list of reforms needed. The first one is about the access of the justice. So access to justice means Article 39A of the Constitution talks about the free legal aid to poor. So if a poor person is, if the poor person is a victim, if there is a rape victim who's from the poor family, then what will happen to her? She will not be having money to afford a lawyer, a great lawyer who is capable of arguing, and they will not be having money to take care of the litigation. So what government should do? Government should provide free legal aid. Government should give them lawyers. So that is called as free legal aid, and it is part of the DPSP Article 39A. Based on this only, we brought in this. We are having the various initiatives. The Article 39A says that Constitution of India provides for free legal aid to poor. Okay. So such legal aid is part of DPSP, but what we have to do, we have to make it fundamental right. That is what the author is telling. Make this free legal aid as fundamental right instead of keeping just as DPSP. So that is the first point which author is telling. Second one is bringing in a proper complaint mechanism. You see, if at all there is a crime, means you have to, if you are facing a chain snatching crime, what will happen? You will go and complain in a particular police station. We have seen in a lot of movies, the police will say that இது எங்க jurisdiction இல்ல, நீங்க வேற police station போங்க. அந்த மாதிரி, like what they will be telling, this is not in our jurisdiction, go to different police station. Go to that writer, give the complaint there, write the forms, fill all these forms, tell me all these things. Already that victim will be in a severe trauma because of the crime being committed. In that time, if the complaint mechanism is very difficult and if it is not pro-victim, means how it will be? All the complaint mechanism is not pro-victim in India. So complaint mechanism should be pro-victim. It should be victim-friendly procedure. So complaint mechanism should be victim-friendly procedure. And we have also seen in a lot of movies that FIR will not be filed by the police. So police are deliberately not filing FIR in many of the cases in order to avoid the case burden. So if there is a police who is reluctant in filing an FIR, then we have to have a mechanism to give complaint against the police and tell that he is not filing FIR. So for that also we should have a complaint mechanism. So make the complaint mechanism victim friendly. That is the first suggestion the author is telling. So these points are relevant for the ethics case studies also. Next one is about the victim participation. With respect to India, the victim participation only is with respect to the trials in the lower court level, and in most of the investigation procedures, the victim's participation is very less. Victims' opinions is not being asked. Whenever a judgment is coming, opinion of the victim is not being asked. Whenever a police is taking a decision, opinion of the victim is not being asked, and victim are not cared. So victim participation should be there in all the stages, and victim impact statement. See, if at all there is a chain snatching happening, they are just focusing only about the chain or the value of the gold chain which is being snatched. They are not considering the trauma which the victim is undergoing. They are not considering the injuries which the victim might undergo because of the chain snatch. They are not we are not considering the after the crime, if they are going home and they will be having the chain for some family reason. If the chain is not there, again that family will be burdened with respect to some financial crisis. So we are not considering all those things. We are just seeing it as a crime. So victim will be would have impacted in many ways. So such impact statements of victim should be analyzed in detail. Every problem of victim should be brought into detail. With that only we have to measure the crime. We should not just see it as a chain snatching. We should see how it has impacted the victim at all the levels, mental, psychological, physical, all the levels. Then we have to give the judgment. So victim impact statement should be brought in, and victim participation should be encouraged at the all the stages. So that is what the author is suggesting. Next, right to information. Right to information is not about the RTA which we are studying with respect to the RTA Act of 2005. It is about the information regarding the what is the role of the victim in case, what are all the various rights the victims are entitled, what are all the rights victims are entitled with respect to jurisprudence, what is the status of the trial, where the trial is there, where the police are. See, if you are going and giving a complaint with respect to a crime, means police should be updating the victim with respect to the status of the trial, status of the investigation, what is happening. So everything should be updated to the victim. So with respect to status of the trial means what status, whether they have find the culprit, whether the culprit is came, whether they found any evidence against the culprit, and what is the status of finding evidence, what is the status of the case in the court. Everything should be updated to the victim. So right to information is very important. So victim should be knowing everything. Then right to protection. Right to protection means, see, if at all there is a crime and they found a culprit, that culprit got bail. If that culprit is getting bail, what he will do, that culprit will come out, and that culprit, we have seen in many movies, that culprit will come and try to harass the victim again. Not only in movies, we saw in Uttar Pradesh where a rape victim was where a rape victim alleged the MLA has raped her. So what happened? The police arrested the MLA, and the cause was gained. The MLA got the bail, and after getting bail, the MLA came out and murdered that woman. Not only that woman, he murdered the entire family of that woman. So this took place in Uttar Pradesh. So such kind of horrific incidents are happening. So whenever such case is there, should also have victim protection schemes. So that is what the author is suggesting. Next we have to provide right to assistance. Right to assistance means medical assistance. Sometimes they'll be facing trauma, so psychological assistance should be provided. Government is not caring about all these things. If there is a victim who's being harassed, means we are just seeing it as a crime. We are not seeing the psychological impact on the victim. So we have to provide proper medical assistance, psychological assistance, then financial assistance if anything is needed. All these things should be considered. So right to assistance in the form of medical, psychological, financial, and material levels, everything should be provided to victim. See, all these things are available for rape victims. For with respect to rape victims or acid attack victims, all these things we are providing, but not for other cases, other crimes. We should provide everything. Even for a murder case, we have to take care of all these things. If, for example, if a wife is being murdered, then the husband will be feeling lonely. The husband will be affected psychologically. Then the husband would have been injured because of the crime took place. So even in the murder cases, also medical, psychological, and financial helps are should be provided. Not only with respect to rape or acid attacks, or with respect to some random accidents. Okay, to all victims of crime, not only for rape and acid attacks. So the same model should be applied to all. Then we are having this issue of compensation versus restitution. So our criminal jurisprudence system is having a confusion between the compensation and restitution. Compensation means when the crime is happening, we are having victim here and we are having an accused here. Okay, so compensation means government coming and helping this victim. We would have already seen recently fire accident took place in Madurai, and the 2 firemen died, unfortunately. So government came and provided them compensation to the family. They provided 225 lakhs, I think, to the both the families. So likewise, if there is an acid attack, then the government is coming and providing the money. So in Hathras rape case also, UP government provided the money to the family of the victim. So government is providing the money to the victim. This is called as compensation. So compensation is one which is coming from government. Restitution means it is coming from the accused. Okay, accused, sometimes in some cases the court will tell the accused to pay the money. If there is, for example, if there is a road accident, means in most of the cases the accused is being asked to pay the money for the treatment of the victim. So that is called as restitution. So in our jurisprudence system, we are confusing between the both. Restitution is imposed on accused and compensation is imposed on the victim. We should not get confused between the both. We should have a separate thing. So instead of having that, we can have this mechanism. Restitution will be imposed on the accused based on the financial capabilities of the accused, and the money collected should be given to victim. So such mechanism should be brought in. Like for example, in any cases which is happening now, government is not focusing on the restitution part, only compensation part from the government is only coming. Penalizing the accused on the monetary levels is not being done. If accused is a rich person, then we can impose the restitution also, okay, and collect the money and give it to victims. So such kind of differentiation should be brought. So this is what the author is suggesting. And finally, the core value of the Indian criminal justice system should be focusing on what are all the core values. The core value should be crime control. Crime prevention and crime control is the first thing. Okay, prevent the crime before happening. Then due process. If at all the crime is happening, then follow the due process of law. The law should be followed, and all the due process should be going on well with respect to the victim-centric manner, and it should be proper. And then encourage victim participation. So these are all the three values of the criminal jurisprudence. Note down all these keywords. See, note down right to access, victim participation, right to information protection, assistance, restitution, everything. Note down this word, note down these values. Everything is relevant in the ethics case studies. We can write in the case studies. Okay. So when we are writing the answer, if our answer is having such keywords in ethics, then the marks will be higher. Okay. So the third editorial for the day is about the shifting sands in the Asian economies. So recently, we are seeing a lot of shift in the global economy. Not only in the global economy, with respect to the Asian economy also, we are facing a lot of shifts because of the COVID-19 pandemic and because of the trade wars and all those things. So author is talking about that. And we are having this topic called effect of liberalization in Indian economy. So it is relevant here. What is the effect of liberalization on Indian economy? Because when liberalization means entire world is being interconnected and all the laws with respect to the firms are being liberalized. So that is liberalization. The laws imposed by the government for the regulation of the firms are being liberalized. So that is called as liberalization. And liberalization of Indian economy means how this liberalization all over the world is affecting our economy. So all those issues is relevant in the GS paper 3. So let us see the article. In this article, the author is talking about this new terminology called China plus one strategy. Let us see what is this China plus one strategy, which is being followed by all the firms. So it is one of the important keyword with respect to our answers. So what the author's ultimate is telling is that with respect to the recent trade war and COVID-19 crisis and all those issues, and with respect to the fall of multilateralism, India is facing an uphill task with respect to maintaining viability. With respect to manufacturing, India is aiming to develop its manufacturing sector, and because of all this crisis happening all over the world, India is facing a severe uphill task with respect to maintaining that. See, that is what is discussed here in the post-pandemic global economy. One of the main thing which it was suggested was, one side we are having COVID-19 and on other side we are having trade war. So this has created a trade war between USA and China, and on other side world is shifting from globalization to protectionism. Protectionism means not opening up the economy. So protecting your economy, that is what called as protectionism. Protectionism is opposite to globalization, okay, or unilateralism. We are facing these three issues. See, for example, USA was the champion of globalization. Now USA is going out. USA is going out of all the treaties, and they are becoming nation-centric. USA first policy. So this world is moving from globalization towards the protectionism. Trade war is between USA and China, and COVID-19. All these things has created some negative impact on China and with respect to Chinese economy. So one, we are having a negative perception against China. Okay, we are having a negative perception against China. And another main issue is that China's per capita income is also rising. Because China's per capita income is rising, what is happening? Wage rates in the China is also rising. Because of these two issues, it is being expected that all the manufacturing firms which were located in China will be shifting out of the China. They will be moving out of the China. This is the thing which was predicted for the past 2 years. For the past 2 years, we are telling this, all the firms will be moving out of China. So all the other Asian nations, all the other developing nations should be using these opportunities. All the labor abundant nations like India and all the developing economies should use this opportunity and capture those companies. Like for example, if Apple is there in China, means Apple will close its firm in China and it will move to a new place where the wages are more cheaper. So all the industries which were there in China, they are moving out of China and moving to a uh, new country where the wage rates are low. At the same time, the democracy is being implemented because of the negative perception against the China. So if that is the case, we were having this perception that developing economies will be having investments from the those firms which are moving out of China. So this was the perception which we are having, but in reality this is not happening. Yes, the COVID-19 crisis and the trade war and the increase in wages has created some impact with respect to firms, and those firms are, of course, they wanted to move out of China, but they don't want to move completely. Okay, they are just moving a part of their production. Like for example, if Apple is producing 1,000 phones in China, because of all these things, they didn't close their entire plant in China and coming to a new nation. What they are doing is they are reducing the capacity there. They have reduced it to 900 phones, and they have established a new firm in another nation where they are producing 100 phones. So this is what is happening. I'm just giving an example. Apple is not doing this. I'm just telling. If Apple was producing 1,000 phones in China, now what is happening because of this effect? What they are doing is they are not completely coming out of China. They are still continuing in China. They are just cutting down the production and they are moving the small scale. At the small scale level, they are moving to another nation. This is called as China plus one strategy. What they are doing is they are still there in China, but they are also having an establishment in another nation. Okay, they are still there in China, they are having an establishment in other nation. Like for example, Apple is still doing the assembly in China, but they are also trying to start a plant in India. Okay, Samsung is still there in China, they also started a plant in India, but not as equal to China. So this is called as China plus one strategy. Everyone wants to not completely move out of China because China is providing them the very good but the firms are still standing, but China still stands firm because of a few reasons. Still all these firms are preferring China. Okay, sorry. Even though this is the criteria which is happening, because of this China plus one strategy, all the firms are preferring China because of few reasons. For example, small scale operations, and they are moving out because they want to create a buffer. Okay, and they wanted to reduce their independence on China. That is what they are doing. They are not totally moving out of China. Small scale operations are moved to the new nation so that they can create a buffer against the total dependence on China. They should not be 100% dependent now. That is what the aim of the firms, not to totally move out of China. So that is what is happening. That is China plus one strategy. Instead of entirely depending on China, let us move a small part of it to a new nation. That is what they are doing. So because of this China plus one strategy, now what is happening? All the nation wants to become that plus one. Earlier they thought that the entire thing will come to their nation. Now they want to become that plus one. So that is what the competition going on. Okay, why they are still trusting China means because ease of starting and doing business is still easier in China. Even though the wage rate are rising, ease of starting a business and doing the business is very easy. China and Chinese government is providing all the facilities for the firms. They are providing all the they are giving all the incentives for the firms still now. So the ease of starting and doing the business is very high in China. That's why they are preferring China rather than any other nation. Similarly, all those firms who established in China, they are nimble and fast. So these firms of China, they are having huge capitals. Even though they are facing losses, they are able to recover easily because of their long function. They are existing there for decades. Even though they are facing any losses because of this trade war of COVID-19, they are able to recover it faster. Okay, so that is what is happening. They are nimble and fast. Nimble means ability to recover quickly. Since they are existing there for 2 or 3 decades, many firms are existing there for 2 decades, or some firms are 3 decades. Since they are existing there for 2 or 3 decades, a firm is not an independent entity. Okay, if there is an automobile firm, means tire will be coming from one company, iron and steel will be coming from one company, leather for the seats will be coming from one company, engine will be coming from one company. Okay, this centralized firm will be it may be a Hyundai company, but all these things, other accessory industries are also dependent on this firm. Since they are existing there for decades, they would have set up their accessory industries around them, and all these accessory industries will be dependent on them. If they have to move, means all these industries also should move. Okay, all the forward linkage, backward linkages industries also should move along with them. Since they are having a strong supply chain, they are reluctant to move because they are having a strong supply chain in China. If the Hyundai is there in China, means all the other things are also there. So they are having a strong supply chain which was established for many decades, and they are reluctant to move. So all these things are preventing the nations to move out of China as we expected earlier. So this has led to many challenges to India. In this scenario, what India must do? See, one thing is this author is assuming that India might join RCEP. We all know that India came out of RCEP. This author is assuming that India might join, and he is writing. Okay, so have that in mind. So what are the challenges to India means? In this case, if India wants to attract those investments, or India wants to be that plus one nation, means what they have to do? They have to increase the public investment. Public investment means government expenditure, or government investment is called as public investment. Government should increase their expenditure, because if only if the government is increasing the expenditure, that will lead to increase in the private expenditure. So that is what the author is telling. 1% increase in government expenditure will lead to 2.5% increase in GDP. Okay, this is public investment. 1% increase in government expenditure or public investment will lead to 2.7% increase in GDP of the nation, and 10% increase in private investment. So this 1% increase is very important in order to trigger this 10% increase. Without this 1% expenditure by the government, this one is not come. See, if you want to boost your manufacturing sector, you should set up special economic zone. You should build a strong infrastructure. You should have good roads. Okay, you should have good roads which are connecting ports to the hinterland of the city. If you could see in the Madurai project of Chennai, we decided to connect the Chennai port with the elevated corridor till the ring road, but still the project is not picking up. So only if government is doing the investment, then the private investment will come, and it will also create 1.2% increase in employment. So note down this point. It is very important with respect to mains answer writing in economy anywhere. Okay, so 1% increase in public investment will lead to 2.7% increase in GDP, and 10% increase in private investment, and 1.2% increase in employment. So public investment is very important. Because of the COVID-19 induced slowdown, we are in a severe need for the increase in public investment. At the same time, RBI has also reduced the interest rates to almost 220 basic points. 220 basic points levels, the interest rate has been cut down by RBI, and the loans are also cheaper now. So it is the best time for the government to borrow money and spend. So government should just borrow money and spend, because the interest rate are also low. So right time to boost the public investment. So government should boost their investments now. And the second one is government should overhaul their trade policy. Okay, so if at all government is joining the RCEP means, so if at all Indian government is joining RCEP means, so I already said that author is assuming that Indian government will join RCEP. Indian government will be facing, Indian economy will be facing two effects. One is Walmart effect, and another thing is switching effect. Let us understand what are all these two effects. So Walmart effect means, Walmart. Walmart is a very big shopping complex, which is having A to Z all the big bazaar mari or kada. Walmart is a big bazaar kind of a thing. It is a very big, larger than the big bazaar. So it will have A to Z all the commodities needed for the public. All the consumer goods will be there in the Walmart. So if at all a Walmart is a US based company. If at all a Walmart is coming into a nation, see, if India is joining RCEP, then naturally, which means that if India is joining RCEP means what does it mean? It means that India is having free trade agreement with 15 other nations. All the 15 other nations, you can, from India, you can export to all the 15 other nations. Then you will not be having any tariffs. So it is easier for you to trade with all the other nations. If you are starting a firm in India, then it is easier for you to trade with all the 15 other nations, because all the 15 nations are in free trade agreement. That is the advantage of free trade agreement. If you are establishing a firm in Malaysia, then it is easier for you to trade with all the other 15 nations, because they all are in free trade agreement. So that is the advantage, because they are, all will not have tariffs with respect to imports or exports. So that is the aim of free trade agreement. So if such things happening, the foreign investments will increase. So one type of foreign investment is Walmart coming in. So Walmart effect means not that Walmart is coming. It can be affected by any FDI. Okay, whenever an FDI with respect to latest technology and high capital is entering into an economy, latest technology and high capital entering into economy, that economy will face a Walmart effect. Walmart effect means, see, let us understand, let us take this example. There are many small retail stores. Retail store means மளிகை கடைங்க, சின்ன சின்ன மளிகை கடைங்க நிறைய இருக்கு. So retail stores are, there are many retail stores. Many people are coming and buying in the retail stores. Then suddenly, if a Walmart comes, means what will happen? If this retail store wants to buy tomato, they will be buying only 10 kg of tomato. But Walmart is having hundreds of branches all over India. If they are buying tomato, they will be buying 110 kgs of tomato. They will buy 110 tomato, and they'll not buy just 10 kgs. If they are buying 1 ton means, then what will happen? They will be getting very cheap prices. They can buy that in a very cheap level. They'll be buying in bulk, so they can procure at cheap level. If this shop, they cannot procure at cheap rates because of they are not procuring at bulk levels. So what will happen? The cost of the goods of the Walmart will be cheaper. Okay, since the cost of goods of Walmart is cheaper and they are having huge capital, what will happen? All these customers will go to Walmart and they will buy goods from there because the goods are cheaper here. Instead of buying tomato at 50 rupees in a Maliga Kada or a Kirana store or a retail store, we can go and buy the same 1 kg tomato at 30 rupees in Walmart. People will go and buy in Walmart only. Because of this, all these firms will be facing losses and they will close. So when a foreign investment of high technology is coming, it will affect the domestic industries. Okay, so in order to maintain the competition with Walmart, what they will do, these firms are also will be try to reduce their investments. They will try to reduce their investments. How they will try to reduce their investment? They will be spending for land, labor, and capital, and they will reduce the wage rates with respect to labor. They will try to reduce the rent, and they will try to reduce the capital. If all these things are reduced, then the investments of these firms will be reduced. Then they can reduce the factor cost. If they reduce the factor cost and bring down their prices, they can compete with the Walmart. So they will also reduce the wage rates. So because of this Walmart effect, the prices of the goods will be cheaper, but it will affect the wage rates also. If the wage rates are affected, ultimately people will be getting less wages. So Walmart effect will affect not only bring down the cost of the goods cheaper, it will also have an impact on the wage rates because all these small stores will reduce their wages and they will also face severe losses. At one point of time, they will close. So because of this, labor loss also will be faced. So this is the thing of Walmart effect. If India is signing RCEP, we might face this Walmart effect. Switching effect means it is easy. Switching effect means nothing. A very big firm, instead of a very big firm or a very developed nation, instead of importing from a like let us take USA. USA, instead of importing from China, they will be importing from India. See, since the wage rates are increasing in China, what is happening? Since the wage rate are increasing in China, the cost of the goods in China will be higher. So instead of importing from China, we can import from India. If at all India is having a good supply chain, good manufacturing capabilities, and they are providing cheap goods, this USA, when they want to import goods, instead of importing from China, they will be switching their imports to India. So because of this RCEP, those nations in RCEP, because of the free trade agreement, they are capable of bringing down the cost of the goods. Okay, if at all a nation is joining RCEP, the cost of the goods will be reduced. So all these developing nations will turn on to these RCEP nations for their imports. Instead of importing from some other nation, they will focus on RCEP nation to import. So that is called a switching effect. If at all India is joining the RCEP, India will have to face the Walmart effect, which is a negative effect, but switching effect is a positive effect. We should be overhauling our trade policies to suit the both the effects. So that is what the author is telling. We have to overhaul our trade policy to suit the both the effects. Okay, so India should be ready to face it. So that is what the author is telling. And India should also aim at increasing the women labor force participation. Okay, see, over the last 10 years, from 2004 to 2017, if you could see what is happening, the women education is increasing. Number of women who are studying in college is increasing. Fertility rate is falling. Even though the fertility rate is falling and the women education is increasing, the labor force participation of women almost halved. From 42% in 2004, it has reduced to 23% in 2017. The women labor force participation is very low in India. India is one of the bottom 10 countries with respect to women labor force participation. The participation of women in the employment is very low in India. Among 100 women, only 23 women are working in India. So this is very low. Okay, we have to increase it. So you cannot develop a nation with one half of your population being discriminated. Okay, one half of the women, if they are not working, then the GDP contribution will be very less. According to IMF, what they are telling is that if the labor force participation of the women is same as men, then what will happen? India's GDP will increase by 27%. There will be 27% growth in India's GDP if the women labor force participation is equal to men. Then imagine, not let us not make it equal. Let us at least double it from 23. Let us take it to at least 50%. If the labor force participation is 50%, then the GDP growth will be almost, we can reach 15% with the same logic. So that is what the thing is. In order to increase the competitiveness and manufacturing growth of India, more women should come and participate in the economy. Okay. Now, with India not joining RCEP, when all the Asian economies are creating an agreement and starting when all the Asian economies are starting a free trade agreement, and if India is not part of it, it will severely affect India. Already India is facing huge problems. We are not having good manufacturing sector. We are facing a slowdown. All these issues are there. If amidst all these issues, if India is going and not joining RCEP, means it will create a huge problem and India will be left out in Asia. That is what the author is telling. Okay. So now let us go to the next editorial. Next editorial is very much important. That is about the RCEP. RCEP is a threat or a treat. So India not joining RCEP. So initially the RCEP was planned to start with the 16 nations. Now RCEP is being started without India. India decided to come out of RCEP. Whether that is a good thing or a bad thing, that is what this article is talking about. And we are also having multilateral institutions in the IR GS paper 2 and effects of liberalization on Indian economy. Both are there in our syllabus, and this article is relevant there. Okay, so it is an Hindu editorial. Let us just see what is the effect of India not joining RCEP. Quickly, let us see. First, let us understand why India didn't join. India didn't join because India is having trade deficit with all the other 15 nations. With all the Asian nations, India is having trade deficit. Trade deficit means India's imports are higher than the exports. Whatever imports we are importing from those nations is higher than the export we are doing to that particular nation. With all the 15 nations, India is having trade deficit. And if at all India is joining RCEP, means India will have a free trade agreement with China. If we are having free trade agreement with China, then what will happen? Already without free trade agreement itself, we are doing this many imports, and China is dumping their goods like anything. They are dumping their crackers, dumping their toys, and all those things. If at all we are joining, then the amount of imports from China will be shooting up. So that is another concern. Then we are having New Zealand and Australia in the RCEP. New Zealand and Australia are known for this dairy industry. Okay, dairy industries and the cows. If at all India is joining in the RCEP, then these two nations will be starting to export their milk. If they are exporting their milk to India, then what will happen? Cheap milk and cheap dairy products, cheap butter will be coming to India, and we all Indians will not buy from Amul or Avin. Okay, because Amul or Avin will be costlier when compared to the milk and milk products coming from Australia and New Zealand, and we will all start buying these, and we will not buy these. So our mentality is like that only. If Amul will be selling for 25%, means the New Zealand company will be selling the milk for 15 rupees. Then we'll all buy milk from this company only. Okay. So our local industry will be suffering. That is the main concern. And at the same time, we are having South Korea and Japan is there in this FTA agreement. If that all we are joining, then the imports from South Korea and Japan will increase. So all this thing was said. Again, India was objecting for rules of origin. Okay. Now what will happen? India said that any import coming from other 15 nations to India will not have tariffs. Now what will happen? See, if at all, let us consider UAE. UAE is not part of this RCEP. What this UAE will do, or Pakistan is not part of the RCEP, and we are not trading with Pakistan. Now what is happening among these 15 nations? Malaysia is a nation. Malaysia and Pakistan are friends. Pakistan, what they will do? They will export to Malaysia. From that Malaysia, they will be just doing the repackaging, and then they will be exporting it to India. Now Pakistan cannot directly export to India, and we are pushing tariffs. Now what will happen? Pakistan will do this thing. They will export to Malaysia. From Malaysia again they will export to India. Now when if import is coming from Malaysia, what will happen? If at all we are importing something from Malaysia, if we are part of RCEP, we should not impose any tariffs. Okay. Indirectly, what will happen? We will not be imposing tariffs on Pakistan. So India said that rules of origin should be very strict. Only those goods which have originated from Malaysia or originated from RCEP nation will not have tariffs. If a good which is originating in Pakistan is coming to coming to India, means we will impose tariffs. So these rules of origin thing should be very strict. That is what India demanded. Then trade in services. Okay, India is very strong in the service sector, but this RCEP is not having many incentives for the service sectors. They are not liberalizing a lot of things with respect to service sector. India was demanding about this, and India was also demanding safeguards, because India demanded that we will still restrict China, and we will restrict the dairy coming from Australia and New Zealand. Only if India is given this safeguard, we will join RCEP. This is what we said. India wanted a strong rules of origin. Trade in services also should be improved. At the same time, India asked for the safeguards. So all this thing was denied 2 years back, and that's why India came out of RCEP. Okay, so that's why India came out. India asked all these things. India telling all these reasons only. India came out. So understand the reasons. Now let us see what are all the prospects of RCEP. See, RCEP, all these 15 nations constitute 30% of the GDP and 33% of the global population, 28% of the world trade. They are part of 28% of the world trade, And within this 28%, 44% is intra-RCEP trade. That intra-RCEP trade means trade among these 15 nations. Okay. If at all this free trade agreement is being signed, means what will happen? This intra-RCEP trade will get a severe boost. Already they are doing 44% trade. Now, after signing the free trade agreement, they will be reducing all the tariffs. If they are reducing all the tariffs, then what will happen? Trade will be boosted. So it is going to create a very big revolution in the Southeast Asia. So India, when they came out, India made the decision in 2019. In 2018-19 itself, we made the decision. That time we didn't know that COVID-19 is going to come and entire world or Indian economy is going to get affected. So this RCEP, those nations who have signed this RCEP, the boost of trade because of this RCEP is one will be helping them to recover from COVID-19. If you could see, at one side, European Union is very uncertain because of Brexit. Since the Britain went out of the European Union, they both are negotiating the pact now with this Brexit, because UK is a very important player in the European Union. Without UK, European Union trade will not be full. Now the trade is going to be broken in European Union itself. So that is one concern with respect to Europe, and Europe is in that mood. And USA, we all know they are in the election mood, and they are in the democratic crisis, and at the same time they are having a huge pro protectionism mindset. They are having a huge protectionism mindset. They are against multilateralism. So US is also not going to boost the world trade. So when the two important economic centers of the world, USA and Europe, is not in there in the economic picture, and if you could see with respect to South Korea, China, or with respect to New Zealand, Australia, all these nations recovered from COVID very easily. The COVID cases are very low here, and they are not having lockdown there, and they have recovered out of the COVID. So joining RCEP will help the nation to come out of the COVID crisis, COVID-induced economic crisis. It will help in recovery of the post-COVID world. You see, in whatever fear India had, India said that they are having trade deficit. Even Philippines and Vietnam is having trade deficit with China and many nations. Even though they are having deficits, they buried all the differences and they joined this RCEP with respect to long-term benefits in mind. So similarly, India should also join the RCEP with the long-term benefits in mind. In short term, we will be suffering. That is true, but in long term, it is going to benefit India. That is what the author is telling. So like Vietnam and Philippines, even though in spite of having the deficits, they join. So similarly, India should go. If at all we are joining, we'll be getting access to the global supply chain. Like I already said, all the major industries are there in China, and all the major industries now moving from China to South Korea. We all know electronics industries are there in South Korea. If at all India is part of the RCEP, means then what will happen? In order to trade with China or South Korea, if an industry is establishing if a foreign industry is coming and establishing in India, then they'll be having easy access to China and South Korea with respect to RCEP. If India is not part of it, those firms will be focusing to establish either in China or South Korea or any of the RCEP nations. So all the foreign investment will go to those nations only, because if they are establishing in India, then they will be losing out the trade of the RCEP. They will be losing out the benefits of the RCEP. So whichever nation they want to start a new firm, means they will be starting their new firm in those nations who have signed the RCEP, because they are going to face the advantage of the free trade agreement. So if at all a firm is starting the business, they will be going to China or South Korea or any of the RCEP nations or Asian nations instead of coming to India, and they will be getting access to global supply chains. So that is what the author is telling. India is going to lose out on the supply chains. So India has been keeping a lot of demands with respect to WTO. With respect to WTO reforms, all the concerns which India said with respect to WTO reforms are being fulfilled in the RCEP. So I have discussed all these concerns with respect to India and WTO in a separate video of WTO in our YouTube channel. Please go and check the WTO video in our YouTube channel. So what and all reforms India wanted in WTO, everything is being implemented in RCEP. RCEP, see, WTO is nothing but they wanted to create a free trade agreement connecting entire world. So that is the aim of WTO. Even though we are not able to achieve that, at least let us establish a free trade agreement with 16 nations. So from there, if we are starting, that will lead to the reform in the WTO. So India's demands for WTO are being fulfilled in RCEP. So India should not miss out. But still, there are huge challenges. So if we are having huge conflict with China in the line of actual control in the border. Because of that, what we did, we brought in a lot of trade barriers and investment barriers from China. With this in mind, again, if we want to join RCEP, means then we have to open up all the trade and investment barrier of China, and India cannot do that strategically because of the tensions. So because of these border tensions, um, we are forced to stay out of RCEP, because if we are joining RCEP means you have to open our trade, we have to open the investments from China, which we have restricted now. And government is focusing on Atmanirbhar. So government is also turning towards the Atmanirbhar and being self-sufficient and vocal for local. So we wanted to boost our manufacturing sector. So we have took this oath of vocal to local and Atmanirbhar mode. If this is the mode, then if self-reliance is the mode, then what we are just focusing on improving the domestic value chain, and RCP is about regional value chain. So India is focusing on the local industrial development and local manufacturing development. So they are not interested in a foreign company coming and establishing in India. So when our focus is on self-reliance, it is challenging the aim of the RCEP. See, Atmanirbhar will aim at boosting the domestic value chain, but RCEP is talking about regional value chain of 16 nations. So it is contradicting there itself. So these are all the issues with respect to RCEP. Please note it down if there is a mains question to answer. These are all the stock points. Surely we can expect a mains question with respect to RCEP this year. So we can write all these points. And the final editorial for the day is about the India's mask of economic liberalism. Recently, our foreign minister, Mr. Jaishankar, he said a severe statement criticizing the RCEP. He said a harsh statement about the multilateralism, and his statement stated that India is pro-protectionism again. So based on that Jaishankar statement only, this editorial is being written. Again, the same areas it is relevant, GS paper 2 and paper 3. Recent statements of external affairs minister has triggered this editorial. So let us understand his statement first. In the name of openness, because of this global, our external affairs ministers has criticized the globalization to a severe level. Because of the globalization and open economy, we have allowed the subsidized products and unfair production advantages from abroad to prevail. So because of this globalization only, China is able to export a lot of things to India. So in the name of globalization, subsidized products, cheap products entered into India, and it has created an unfair situation for the local industries. Okay. And at the same time, because in the name of globalization, India was forced to accept a framework which was set by others. All these free trade agreements which we signed earlier, he is criticizing all the free trade agreements earlier. See, when the RCP came into force 2 days back, the next day, Jaishankar gave all these statements. Our foreign minister said all these statements criticizing the free trade agreement. Indirectly, he is criticizing RCEP only. So in order to substantiate his logic of not joining RCEP. See, of course, we had our concerns of not joining RCEP. That concerns are genuine only, but we cannot stay out of it. For how many long days we'll be staying out of RCEP? If there is such a good free trade agreement is going on, which is going to benefit India in the long term, we cannot stay out of it for a long term, which will affect India and India's aim to boost the manufacturing sector. So he is telling that if at all India is accepting this RCEP framework, it is a framework set by others, which will not benefit India, but it will benefit only others. So that is what he is telling. And finally, he is saying that the effect of past trade agreements has always been to deindustrialize some sectors. Because of the free trade agreements and because of the LPG reforms and because of this globalization only, India is not able to industrialize. So India should industrialize first and then go for the globalization. So that is what the author is telling. Not the author, that is what our foreign minister said. And the statements of the foreign minister is purely against globalization. It was against globalization and it was favoring protectionism. See, India was considered to be a liberal nation. India was considered to be a nation which is supporting the globalization. But this statement of our foreign minister is stating that India is moving towards protectionism, towards a closed economy. Okay. The same thing which is criticized with respect to the Nehru. But this author, what he is telling is, he is demystifying he is busting all the arguments given by our external affairs minister. Okay, author is giving points to bust all the arguments given by the external affairs minister. We can use the points said by the author with respect to our answers in favor of all these points are in favor of RCEP. Okay, this is also an extension of RCEP only. In this article also we are going to talk about free trade agreements and RCEP only. So we can write in favor of all those things. So before going to that, I'll say about free trade agreements. Okay, free trade agreement means nothing. There is two countries, country A and country B. Free trade means what? Country A will export something and country B will import it. Country B is exporting something, country A will import it. When we are importing and exporting, we will be imposing a lot of import duty or export duty. This import duty or export duty will hamper the free trade. all those things which is hampering the free trade should be removed, like import duties and export duties, or with respect to quotas. We are having quotas with respect to import of various goods. Only this much amount of thing will be import and not exceeding that. So such quotas also will be affecting the free trade. Like for example, Harley Davidson means we'll be importing only 100 Harley Davidsons per year. If India is imposing such a quota, means only 100 Harley Davidsons can come into India. But in India, there might be a demand for 1,000 Harley Davidsons. Even though the demand is for 1,000 Harley Davidson, only 100 will be coming in. So this is hampering the free trade. So all these things which is hampering the free trade should be removed. That is free trade agreement. For those who are not clear about what is free trade agreement, I'm telling this. For further details, you go and see the WTO video which I have done. It is there in our YouTube channel. So India refused to joining RCEP is a sign of weakness. It is not a sign of boldness. India didn't take a bold decision. It is not a sign of India's strength. India is telling, I will not join RCEP. I am having this protectionist mindset. India boasting that it is having protectionist mindset and it is anti-globalization means it is not a sign of boldness. It is a sign of weakness only. Because of the India's weakness and because of inability of India to do to produce more exports and inability of India to reduce the imports only, we came out of RCEP. It is a sign of our weakness. Okay, that thing we have to understand. When WTO is sluggish, free trade agreements of the nature of RCEPs are gateways towards the international states. It is going to improve our value chain. It is going to bring in a lot of investment. We already saw being part of RCEP will improve our value chains with respect to manufacturing sector, and it will going to increase our investments only, foreign investments. So when WTO is not in a good rate, it is in a sluggish, it is functioning in a sluggish way. I mean, these free trade agreements are the futures. So we have to join the free trade agreement. That is what the author is arguing. Next, our external affairs minister is telling that India is because of this globalization, because of India being open, we have suffered. He is telling that India is a very big open economy. Of course, yes. When compared to the pre-1991 levels, whatever we are now, we are open when compared to whatever levels which was there in pre-1991. We are open, but with respect to comparing to the global economy, we are not as open as we suggest. Still, India is a relatively closed economy only. Still, our tariffs rates are almost 13.8%. India is still importing 13 point. Our average tariff rate is 13.8%, which is very high. With respect to the UNCTAD, United Nations Council for Trade and Development, we are having this UNCTAD. According to this UNCTAD, they are releasing an index called Import Restrictiveness Index. In this Import Restrictiveness Index, we are performing bad, and India has been categorized as very restrictive category, very restrictive nation. So even though our external affairs minister is telling that India is open economy and it has suffered a lot because of that, it is not true. We are not as open as the external affairs ministers think. Okay, that is what the main criticism is. Again, these FTAs. See, he's telling this because of the free trade agreements, our manufacturing sector has suffered. But in the economic survey which came in 2019-20, economic survey which released in February 2020, this 2019 economic survey talks in favor of free trade agreement. That economic survey is also policy of the government only. In the government policy, which they stated in February, they are telling that because of free trade agreement, India benefited in the past 20 years. In the past 30 years, because of all the free trade agreements, India has benefited. That is what the author was telling in the economic survey. But by taking a stance against globalization now, this government is contradicting their stance, which they said just 9 months back. 9 months back, they were supporting free trade agreement, and now they are criticizing it. So they are contradicting it. Okay. So another main problem is by stating such a way, by stating that foreign free trade agreements are the main reason for the our external affairs minister said that free trade agreements are main reason for sluggish growth in manufacturing sector. By accusing the free trade agreements for our slow growth in manufacturing sector, our government is obvious of the real problems of the economy. We are avoiding the real problems. The real problem is not FTA. India is not having a strong manufacturing sector because of the structural irregularities of the Indian economy. Because we skipped the manufacturing sector and went to the service sector. That is the problem. We didn't create proper employments. We didn't create proper incentives to the firms to start business. Our ease of doing business ranking was very bad in the past. All those regions, the structural lack of structural reforms and lack of competitiveness of Indian firms are the main reason for our sluggish growth in manufacturing sector, not the free trade agreements. We should not blame the free trade agreements for everything. So this is what the author is telling. We should not by accusing free trade agreements for our manufacturing sector problem, we are oblivious for our real problems of our economy. And after 1991, India is one of the highest beneficiary of the free trade agreements and globalization. In 1991, when we were suffering badly, IMF came and helped us. IMF asked us to open our economy. Because of that only, we faced the high growth rate. Before 1991, our growth rate was only 3%. But after 1991 LPG reforms only, our growth rate reached almost 8 to 9% every year. We reached 8 to 9% growth rate only because of the liberalization and globalization only. And our poverty rate was 40% then, and now it is 20%. We have almost halved our poverty rates. So we reduced the poverty, we brought in a lot of people out of the poverty rate, and we face a strong growth rate. Everything is because of this LPG reforms only. So we cannot be accusing all, we cannot blame these free trade agreements and globalization for whatever problems we are facing now. It has indeed helped our economy only. So government, with all this in mind, they should take a decision. So they should make a decision to join RCEP. That is what ultimately Arthur is telling. But now we cannot join RCEP because we are having a lot of problems. So in future, at least we should create a roadmap. We should at least create a roadmap to join RCEP in future. That is, we can create a roadmap of 5 years. After 5 years, we will be joining RCEP. Within the 5 years, we will be doing all the reforms and make Indian economy strong. And after 5 years, we'll be joining RCEP. So such kind of things the author should keep in mind. So with this, we have come to the end of the video. Thank you, everyone. So thank you guys. We have come to the end of the 5 editorials of the week video. We saw 5 editorials today, and please revise all these points which I have discussed. And please remember, in order to remember, you have to revise. Please do the proper revision. Only if you are doing proper revision, you can remember. Please see a past video tomorrow. See the live video today and see another video from the past, previous, from any of the video from the previous 12 videos tomorrow. Do regular revision, then only you can remember the points. Remembering the points is our ultimate aim for the mains. Okay, so please remember the points. Please do the proper revision. Let us meet next week with another 5 editorials. Thank you. If you guys have any doubts, you can ask me in the comments.